flashes of my energy, and nobody noticed. I was at one call once in the north east and decided they needed a bit of chivying up. So there was like rooms on the back of the platform where we used to go and pray before the meeting. There was quite a crowd of us. So there was like me, the corps sergeant major, the corps treasurer, the corps cadet guardian, the corps secretary, about 5 or 6 of us, and they decided the congregational order needed cheering up. So it also doubled as the band room, so I gave them all something to play as we came out. I marched out with a big bass drum, banging it, singing, "We're going to the army. We're going where the big beats flow." And as I walked out, they shut the door behind me. And I was left walking across this platform all on my own, and you know, the congregation never even broke a smile. I felt the right to work. Anyway, it's good to welcome you to worship this morning. I do want to just say a few things. Firstly, I want to thank Janet for her input into putting together what we see on the screen and making sense of not only my meeting plan, but every meeting plan. Because I was thinking as I prepared this meeting that I've done one occasionally to cover for the CEO's holiday. Mike does them, Maisie does them, but we all have a Sunday off. We all have Sundays where we don't do a meeting. Since August, Janet has never had a Sunday, is that not true there? Where she hasn't prepared a meeting for the screen. And not only that, so that's her week. You know, perhaps takes the Friday or the Saturday, I don't know when she gets other people's meeting plans. But not only that, she'll go home today and she'll put it together so it's fit to go on the YouTube recording. So it's a massive, massive job. And it's all that behind, yes, we give you a bag of chocolate after Janet, but somebody had to buy them for £1. But thank you very much. We do appreciate it. All my songs are what I would term old songs this morning. And I will explain my choice for those as we go through the meeting. So our first song is 960, if you're using the songbook. 960, in the army of Jesus we've taken our stand, to fight against the forces of sin, to the rescue we go, Satan's power to overthrow, and his captives to Jesus we'll win. I'll stand for Christ, for Christ alone. So we will stand and we will sing. Thank you, Janet. compassion. It's noted for responding to a crisis and to people in need. So whether you're like me and you wear a Salvation Army uniform, or whether you don't, when and if you tell people you come to the Salvation Army, they expect the same level of care and compassion that the Salvation is noted for from each one of us. They make no differentiation about whether you wear a uniform, whether you're a fully signed up member. If you mention the Salvation Army, if people are in need, they expect a level of something from us. Not necessarily materially, but they expect we will all have that same care and compassion. So whilst our opening song is an old song, it carries a truth for me for a truth for today. By coming here to worship in the Salvation Army this morning, you have taken your stand. By coming here week on week, that's the truth of your presence here. In the Salvation Army, we have taken our stand. The Salvation Army is the army of Jesus, and therefore in the army of Jesus, we have taken our stand. We learned last week that the theme of this year's self-denial appeal for the UK is caring for creation. I had to confess to having a major meltdown last week when I realised that actually I'd done the meeting by last week. And when I arrived, I realised all the stuff I'd downloaded was nothing to do with this territory's theme at all. I've downloaded the stuff for Australia. Anyway, I've been a bit creative and I've married the two themes together, and I think it's come out acceptable. Because Australia's theme for this year is the ripple effect, and the UK is caring for creation. So I've drawn from both of those themes to think about how we give and what we give in monetary terms when it comes to the altar service, and the ripple effect that that money will have through the world in the Salvation Army's care for creation, in the areas that we will see over the next 3-4 weeks in the videos. You will also recall, if you were here last week, that for the month of February, Maisie has chosen the theme of Bible heroes for those of us leading meetings. So in keeping with that, I have chosen the boy with the 5 loaves and 2 fish in the feeding of the 5,000 as the Bible hero who also this meeting is based upon. Now one day, God was looking down at earth and he saw that it wasn't good. People were not behaving well. They were not being kind to each other. Not only that, but they were abusing the planet and its resources. So God decided to send an angel to earth to check things out. When the angel returned, his report was not good. He told God that things were very bad on earth, worse in fact than they had expected. Not only that, but the planet was in decline. The angel reported that 95% of the population were at fault, and only 5% were really being good. God was not pleased with this result, as you could imagine. So decided that he would send an email to the 5% who were good to lift their spirits and encourage them to keep going. What did the email say? You weren't in the 5% either. I meant to say to Janet, we're into the offering and announcements, but I'm going to do the announcements first, because there are some important things I need to tell you about, and I want the Sunday school workers to listen to it before they leave the meeting as well. It's always nice to welcome people to our service, isn't it? And it's lovely to see Andrea with us this morning, and it's lovely to see Sarah, who I presume you're visiting your mum and Stephen and checking them out there, so it's lovely to see you this morning. Just to make you aware that Janet Cox was taken into hospital this morning, Yesterday, with, I understand, breathing problems and some other things. So do remember Janet in your prayers this week. And hopefully you'll keep us appraised of how things progress. Thank you, everyone. In the community room, following this service, you'll see there are some chocolates and some books still for sale as part of our fundraising efforts. The flowers this morning are just off our dining table, some daffodils we bought this week. But I did want to tell you that while Judy is indisposed, you can still contribute to the flower fund and either give your money to Edna or to myself. We're grateful to Peter and his team with the help of Liz and Pam, who will be providing our tea and coffee following this service this morning. On Tuesday of next week, this hall is going to be used as a vaccination centre for COVID-19. So if you need a first, a second or a booster jab, or you know of somebody else who does, then please guide them in this direction. The NHS will be using this hall between 10 and 2 next Tuesday for vaccination purposes. And it's a walk-in clinic, so anybody can come along. Thank you. We're running Lent Bible study courses again this year. They will be on a Monday at 2 o'clock in this hall, and on Wednesdays at 7:30 via Zoom. They will start on Monday the 28th of February and Wednesday the 2nd of March respectively. The Lent books cost £7, and that will be a personal cost. And if you'd like a book, there is a list in the community room for you to write your name on, and then we will collect the money from you. Now, in the past, one of the things that has been very important for any Salvation Army corps is that the congregation, you who worship here, have a voice and an influence on the activities, what goes on, the fundraising, how the corps runs, what happens here. And that has been historically by something called the Corps Council, or as in our case, it was by something called the SALT leadership team. And on that leadership team were people like Janice and Edna Diner, Olwyn, various people. We decided we're going to try something new. So this is that we are going to set up 3 groups. These groups will meet ongoingly, 3 or 4 times a year. And those groups will look at how they might engage with fundraising, how we might engage with social activity or the core diary or the core calendar or core programme. And the 3rd group will be community outreach. So this will replace the sole leadership team. We're looking and asking you if you would consider joining one of these groups. We want it to be a core-wide voice that feeds into how this core happens, the future and how it runs. So if you'd like to do that, there is again a notice on the community notice board. You put your name on the list under the heading of the group you would like to join. The first meeting of these groups will be on Sunday, the 13th of March, following the morning meeting. And the morning meeting will be timed to accommodate those groups. Does that make sense? Has anybody got anything immediately they'd like to ask me? about that in particular. Clear as mud. I can see it. Well, if you think of anything as you ponder that during the meeting, then do speak to me afterwards, or speak to Wendy or Janet, and we'll help you as best we can with that. Maisie continues to be on holiday this week, so if you need anything, then again, speak to either Wendy, Janet, or myself. And next week, Mike is leading the meeting. So we'll now wait upon you for your offering, please. As you know, we have a video to show for each week of the leading up to the altar service in March. This week's video is from Kenya, and we're going to watch that now. Thank you, Jenna.
Hello, and welcome to the second of our films for this year's Self-Denial Appeal. For this year's Self-Denial Appeal, we're looking at how the Salvation Army around the world is caring for creation and responding to climate change. This week I'll be talking to George Abundo in Kenya. George is a project manager working on water, sanitation and hygiene, as well as food security projects across the country. The Salvation Army in Kenya is growing. Its two territories now have over 400,000 members if you include junior soldiers. The country as a whole has seen economic growth, but there is still widespread poverty. Subsistence farmers who rely on predictable rainy seasons have been hit hard by changing weather patterns. George is in Nairobi today. Let's see if I can get hold of him. George, thank you so much for being with us today. It's wonderful to have you with us.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the invitation.
So obviously we're thinking a little bit over here about care for creation and the impact of climate change. George, what are you seeing where you are?
Climate change, I want to say, is a big thing here. It's something which is affecting people because now the weather patterns have really been unpredictable. It's a real concern. And almost 2/3 of Kenya is arid and semi-arid, experiencing severe drought. So when you add that to climate change challenges, then you find that the situation is quite disparate. Sometimes in Kenya, you find children going without food, women, people with a disability, going without water. They suffered communicable diseases such as diarrhea, malnutrition. The people who actually destroy the climate, the big contributors, are mainly in the developed world.
Yeah.
But the greatest people who suffer the impact of climate change are people in this region. And the vulnerable population, the poor, are really affected by the impacts of climate change.
So with all of these impacts coming towards you, all of these changes that are affecting, as you say, livelihoods, ability to farm, the droughts in these already arid areas, what are the projects that you're working on right now to deal with this climate change?
Currently, the project that I'm leading is focusing on resilience, looking at the water, sanitation, hygiene, food security, issues of economic empowerment, but through a resilience lens. Because the starting point is for people to understand climate change. You must understand how to adapt.
Yeah.
And even some of the mitigation measures. For instance, the picture that I sent on our borehole, fitted with solar energy. So that is also an innovative way of ensuring that you tap into that. Instead of, again, spending money on electricity, we are encouraging people to capitalize on the free solar energy to power their water tanks. Yeah, so that is one of the innovative ways of actually even implementing our projects.
George, one of the pictures that you sent through was of a sand dam. It's an extraordinary picture. Can you explain to us what that is and what its purpose is?
Yes, a sand dam is a water collection structure, just to put it simply. That construction now impounds or collects both sand and water. And the excess water passes downstream. So if you look at the vegetation around that sand dam, with the time you find that the water table will now rise.
Right.
And even the vegetation around the sand dam will even improve. Yeah, from arid vegetation to a flourishing vegetation. And in fact, I want to mention this, that the UK territory has really supported quite a number of sand dams. And the sand dams that they have supported are very successful. Good. The impact might not be very fast, but with time, the sand dams that we did 5 years ago, now huge impact, even on agriculture, on food availability, on tree planting, on the general climate, on livestock, water availability to households. Huge impact. Yeah. Yes.
George, thank you so much for spending time with me today. Bless you.
Thank you, and God bless you. God bless UK territory and many other territories. We value your support and we look forward to a continued working relationship with you. Oh. We wish you well and we wish them well, especially now during this pandemic. Yeah. Thank you so much and God bless you.
Bless you. Bye. In next week's film, I'll be talking to Colonel Yusak Tampi in Indonesia.
Interesting, isn't it? I hope you could see it clearly on that big screen there. It's very interesting, and I'll come back to that a little later. I think you've been sitting really still and good for too long. You're really looking a bit ingrained into that chair now. So we're going to get up again and we're going to sing. We're going to sing another really old song. It's 932, but in fitting with our self-denial theme, really, in our appeal. The Lord's command to go into the world and preach the gospel unto all isn't helping another country build resources, preaching the gospel. You know, we're not, what was it St. Francis said, preach the gospel at all times, and when that fails, use words. So in our giving, we are helping others preach the gospel. So I thought this song was relevant to that. And when we sung this song, we're going to watch another video. And this video comes from the Canada and Bermuda territory. So I've really gone international this morning. You must give me credit for that. And I thought this offered, when I came across it, I thought it offered another perspective on what self-denial means to each individual. So first we're going to sing, and then we're going to watch the video from Canada and Bermuda. Let's start to sing. Janet switches from one thing to the next. We're a bit quick in the chorus there, didn't it? A bit of a candle there we went along, didn't we? I found this marvellous thing on YouTube from, I don't know where Pendleton Core is, if anybody else knows. I don't know whether it's in the UK, but their band has recorded hundreds and hundreds of tunes. So all the tunes come from there this morning. Some of them have got pictures like that with the words, and one of them's got a really wacky picture of like a crazy core, and I wondered how I could fit that song in. It didn't really, because I thought it looked like us, but I couldn't fit the song in anyway. Is that okay, Janet? We're on.
General William Booth, founder of the Salvation Army, started the self-denial appeal in 1886 when he called on all Salvationists to deny themselves and to give what they could to support the ministry of the International Salvation Army. You will be interested to know that today, the Salvation Army is active in 132 countries, and every territory and command participate in the Partners in Mission Self-Denial Appeal. All funds from this global campaign go to international headquarters, who then distributes the money across the Army world. These funds ensure that the Army flag keeps flying in all 132 countries where it is active. For me, self-denial is a spiritual act. We deny ourselves to support the ministry of the Salvation Army beyond our borders, so that others may encounter Christ. This year, we ask Canadian Salvationists, soldiers, and members to answer the question, what does self-denial mean to you? As you listen to the words of our faithful supporters, we hope that you are encouraged to give sacrificially and become a transforming influence in communities around the world.
What does self-denial mean to me? Well, it's simple. We live in a land of opportunity, of abundance. And here's a chance to be generous to those who are less fortunate.
Well, it means that we can be the giving hand of Jesus.
Self-denial is looking past yourself and taking responsibility.
Recognizing the privilege we have and using that privilege to give and empower others across the world in their relative communities. And it's also
the joy of giving.
Thinking about the needs of others before my own.
Self-denial is rejecting your natural desires.
Less of me, more of others.
Bringing hope through the vehicle of the Salvation Army.
That we journey together with each other, even when we are physically apart.
It means using what I have to help others.
Self-denial is not about us, but about God and about others.
I'm giving up a portion of what I have for others and for building the kingdom of heaven.
Self-denial is dying to self.
So this year, as I think about self-denial, I think about digging a little bit deeper to be able to assist someone in another part of the world who may not be able to assist.
Thank you for joining us in supporting the international ministry of the Salvation Army. Together, we can make a difference and reach the world for God.
See, I sort of figure that in order to consider prayerfully what we will put in our envelope on the 6th of March, we ought to have thought about it long before then. We ought to have had some bigger picture influence before then. And so my aim of this meeting this morning, as I said earlier, is to perhaps better inform us, to perhaps give us that wider perspective, to present to us that challenge of self-denial and our giving and what we put in those envelopes leading up to and including the 6th of March. And if you haven't picked your envelope up yet, there will be one for you on the table at the back of the hall. We're going to look at our Bible reading now. And we're looking at Mark chapter 6. And you'll gather the story that I'm reading because of my inference at the start of the meeting to my choice of the Bible hero was the boy with the 5 loaves and the 2 fish. So you will have guessed what my Bible reading is, the feeding of the 5,000. Then because so many people were coming and going that they did not even have a chance to eat, he, Jesus, said to them, "Come with me by yourselves to a quiet place and get some rest." So they went away by themselves in a boat, and he's talking to the disciples there. They went away to a quiet place by themselves in a boat to a solitary place. But many who saw them leaving recognized them and ran on foot from all the towns and got there ahead of them. When Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, he had compassion on them because they were like sheep without a shepherd. So he began to teach them many things. By this time it was late in the day, so his disciples came to him. "This is a remote place," they said, "and it's already very late. Send the people away so that they can go to the surrounding countryside and villages and buy themselves something to eat." But Jesus answered, "You give them something to eat." They, the disciples, said to him, "That would take more than half a year's wages. Are we going to go and spend that much on bread and give it to them to eat?" "How many loaves do you have?" he asked. "Go and see." When they found out, they said, 5 loaves and 2 fish. Then Jesus told them to make all the people sit down in groups on the green grass. So they sat down in groups of hundreds and fifties, taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and looking up to heaven, Jesus gave thanks and broke the loaves. Then he gave them to his disciples to distribute to the people. He also divided the 2 fish among them all. They all ate and were satisfied, and the disciples picked up 12 basketfuls of broken pieces of bread and fish. The number of men who had eaten was 5,000. It's a very well-known story, isn't it? And actually, as I reread the story for myself, and I'd set my meeting plan to Janet, I realised that neither Matthew, Mark, nor Luke mention a boy. And I thought, oh heck, the heroes, the boy who's not here, where's he gone? But John, in John 6, is the only gospel writer to mention the boy, and he talks about the boy coming forward. In verse 8, another of the disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, spoke up. "Here is a boy who has 5 barley loaves and 2 small fish." Those people, I think, would feel justified in wanting their privacy, wouldn't they, after they've had a busy time? Don't you, if you're at work and you've had a busy time and you just want to go home and have a rest? But here we're told Jesus' rest time was invaded by 5,000 people. And we are told that he had compassion for them all. Verses 32 and 34 tell us they were like sheep without a shepherd. We know that during the pandemic, don't we, people have suffered loss. They've lost sense of direction. Many people have been bereaved, and I use the word bereaved in its widest sense to express any kind of loss. So people were directionless. I felt directionless, didn't you? I felt like we were a bit lost at times. And I felt compassion for people who suffered loss, and there was lots of it. And I could then identify with how Jesus felt in that situation, seeing that vast crowd. They were lost. They needed compassion. He didn't just stop at feeling sorry. He didn't just stop at thinking, oh, that's, poor people are going to go away hungry. Some of them might have a long way to go. He went on to address that physical need this encounter in Mark tells us. As Christians in today's world. Being like Jesus means that we are moved with compassion. As I said right at the beginning, in the army of Jesus, we have taken our stand. That's an expression of compassion that we give. The Salvation Army is known for putting its faith into action. As I said earlier, by your presence here, you identify with that faith in action, that heart to God and that hand to man. As we come into this time of prayer, let's bring to God our heartfelt concern about the ever-increasing needs of this country, the world around us, the limited resources and the poverty in this country, as well as overseas. As we come into this time of prayer, let's think with compassion on the people that our money will go to serve, as we reflect on those videos we will see in the coming weeks leading up to the 6th of March. We're going to listen to a video, Christ in Me, and this is going to form our prayer time this morning. Following the video, we'll share in prayer together. the recurring theme of that beautiful song, Christ and only Christ in me. Dwell within that men may see. Fill me now, so shall there be, that the world may ever see Christ and only Christ in me. As we listened, we invited the Lord to soothe our hurts with His gentle balm, to breathe within our lives His charm, so that Christ will be evident within our lives. Father God, as we dwell within your presence and we feel you near at this moment, as we have witnessed and heard about the needs of the world, we too are very mindful of our own needs. Not only the needs of this country, this community, but our own personal needs. We ask you this morning to breathe within new life. Breathe within hope. Breathe within peace. So that when we step out from this gathering this morning, we will feel refreshed and renewed and uplifted in our spirit. We ask this in your name. Amen. We're going to move again, on again, and we're going to sing again. You can remain seated for this one. I always think it's a really odd song, but I've chosen it for a purpose. So you'll see what I mean, and you'll have your own thoughts about it. Again, it's an old one, and you'll have your own thoughts about it as we sing 927. And Debbie's going to help us on the piano. Thank you, Debbie. song for me, if Janet can bring up at all verse 3, the power for me of this song lies in verse 3. Down in the human heart, crushed by the tempter, the devil, feelings lie buried that grace can restore. Touched by a loving hand, that might be your loving hand or my loving hand, awakened by kindness, just a small act, something, chords that were broken will vibrate once more. Isn't that emotional? Isn't that moving? Eh? We see those people all around us, that poor young chap that came last week soaking wet. His zip on his rucksack had broken. Not his rucksack, his sleeping bag. Had we got another sleeping bag to give him? We found a sleeping bag. We gave it to him. We gave him a cup of tea. We gave him some cake. And I said to him, are you a rough sleeper or are you travelling? Because he had a great big rucksack on his back. He said, well, I'm a bit of both. I'm travelling and hence I'm a rough sleeper. I'm heading to Manchester now. And I thought, you never know, do you? You never know. I get quite emotional now thinking about it. You never know what him coming in here last Sunday, getting a sleeping bag, getting a hot drink and some nice sweet treat. What will that do for that man? We don't know what's happened in his life. Down in the human heart, we all have feelings that are buried. We all have feelings that grace can restore. They just need a touch of a loving hand. They just need to be awakened by kindness. We have no idea, do we, how our acts of kindness affect other people. That boy with his lunch, 5 loaves and 2 fish, and he willingly gave it. He willingly gave it, not knowing if he was going to go hungry himself. I'm not sure I'd have been. I can't be food too much. I think in a past life, if we believe in past lives, I think I was in a famine. I worry about food. I worry about, not what about home, but if I'm going to visit somebody and it's far away, I worry about what I'll have to eat. Will I be hungry? And I think it must come from somewhere, because we lived and grew up in a house where food was never ending, you know, and you ate it all up, or you starving children in Africa. So you sat there till you ate your dinner. But you know, the ripple effect of that boy's lunch fed 5,000 people, and they could have gone back for seconds. We saw in the video, if you remember, from Kenya, that the money given from UK territories years ago built those sand-dams. I thought that was remarkable when I saw it, when I played it to myself at home. The ripple effect that giving 5 years ago is still going on today. I don't know if any of you watched The Green Planet on a Sunday evening with David Attenborough. Did you see it last week when in Kenya they were encouraging reforestation and replanting? So they were collecting all the native seeds and plants and they were coating them in a charcoal coating so they weren't appealing for animals to eat. Did you see that? And then schools were going out with these charcoal these seeds coated in charcoal with catapults and throwing them out into the dry parched land. And people going about their everyday lives, like Joan would have a bag of seeds to take to the shops, and as she walked along, she'd be throwing the seeds on the ground, or anybody else. I thought it was remarkable, really. And that principle, that process, they said last week, is now spreading across the globe. The ripple effect. We just don't know, do we, what impact we have on the lives of other people. How we might help the lives of other people. We go to the supper class last week on a Monday, and do you know, it's remarkable. People watching you now, don't they? You know, we did some baking back in October, and some lady came to me and she said, "Are they your cakes?" And I said, "Yeah, mine and Susan, I'll be buying yours." She'd never had our bacon. She didn't know what it's like. I said, oh, right, you know. And another lady said, because it's been cold, I've gone with a couple of layers on. And another lady said, I watched the climate bio, you come dressed. She said, if you've got more than one layer on, I know it's cold. People, you know, they just watch and they, you know, somebody else said, oh, I love you three, you're so funny. I just don't know. It's absolutely incredible how people watch us when we're not looking, when we're going about our everyday lives. We don't know the impact that has. We don't know the impact that kindness shown to somebody will help them. Some nice smile you give to somebody in social, you don't know quite how much it's feeling, perhaps. But you know, it's always about kindness, compassion. And as we consider our giving for the self-denial, think as you put your money in the envelope in the next few weeks, think about you don't know how that money is going to change somebody else's life. Think about that. And I'm not going to use the next song, Janet, but I think the Sunday School have got things to share with us. Have you? Have you done anything worthy of? It's always worth it. Sorry, translate that. Can you come in while we're in the last couple of minutes? Because at times we're meeting to go on 48 minutes. But you see, the person who did the announcements waffled on and on and on. You couldn't shut it up. So we're now nearly at the hour. What have you done in Sunday school? Oh, no, we didn't plan for this. Sorry, Janet. This is an unexpected. Right, tell.
Me and Roxy started writing a letter to Boris Johnson.
No, not political, Now, if this is recorded, I could be hungry. I could be on the gallows next week. Go on then. Have you both got one? Right, do you want to read yours? What is it about, your letter?
It's about the environment.
Talking to that.
And how we have to keep it safe.
Right. Are they prayers or are they letters? Letters. Right. You read your letters.
Dear Boris Johnson, can we think about the planet for 1 second, please, and about global warming? Right now we are doing the wrong thing to the world, and right now we need to sort it out. You need to think about the Arctic and air pollution and what we can do about it. At church we have been learning about how God made our earth to look after, but we are ruining it, so please do your part, so we age now.
Your turn. Speak right into the microphone so people can hear you. Don't bring it too hard because you'll snap it off at the top. Then I'll be in trouble again.
Dear Boris Johnson, I know that many things are happening in the country, but we also need to care about the environment. In Sunday school, we have been thinking about God's creation, and we would like you to think about the environment. Natural disasters such as tornadoes, hurricanes and earthquakes can happen in this country, and if you don't act fast, all lives can be embraced. Violence in this country is everywhere, and part of this is from children. This is God's world, and He has sent you on a mission. You should sell more electric cars, provide more buses, plant more trees, and encourage more people to ride bikes. From Roxy, age 9.
Thank you, wasn't that fantastic? Thank you, girls, and thank you to those who teach our children week by week. So we're grateful to Felicity and Edna, who taught Sunday school today. Thank you very much. Our closing song is 392. I hope you're going to send those to the Prime Minister. Good, I hope so. Because I think they're worthy of his attention myself. So I thought we should go out with a bit of a tap in our foot. You know, or a bit of a something, you know. I thought you'd sat here for an hour, I didn't know where your feet would be, with the cold, no, you know, whatever, no idea. So before the teapot goes on and gets warmed up and we all get a nice brew and a nice bicky, we're going to sing 392. Teach me to dance. I nearly didn't teach you a dance, but I thought, you know. Are we up there? Are we going? Are we standing up? Up we go!
Teach me to dance to the beat of your heart. Teach me to move in the power of your spirit. Teach me to walk in the light of your presence. Teach me to dance to the beat of your heart. Teach me to love with your heart of compassion. Teach me to trust in the word of your promise. Teach me to hope in the day of your coming. Teach me to dance to the beat of your heart. You are the rhythm of life, created heaven and earth. In you is joy without measure. So like a child in your sight, I dance to see your delight, for I was made for your pleasure. Teach me to dance to the beat of your heart. Teach me to move in the power of your spirit. Teach me to walk in the light of your presence. Teach me to dance to the beat of your heart. Teach me to love with your heart of compassion. Teach me to trust in the word of your promise. Teach me to hope in the day of your coming. Teach me to dance to the beat of your heart. Let all my movements express a heart that loves to say yes, a will that keeps to obey. Let all my energy blaze to see the joy in your face. Let my whole being praise you. Praise you. Teach me to dance to the beat of your heart. Teach me to move in the power of your spirit. Teach me to walk in the light of your presence. Teach me to dance to the beat of your heart. Teach me to dance to the beat of your heart. Teach me to move in the power of your spirit. Teach me to walk in the light of your presence. Teach me to dance to the beat of your heart. Teach me to love with your heart of compassion. Teach me to trust in the word of your promise. Teach me to hope in the day of your coming. Teach me to dance. Teach me to dance. Teach me to dance to the beat of your
The benediction is, let nothing disturb thee, nothing affright thee. All things are passing, God never changes. Patient endurance attaineth to all things. Who God possesseth, in nothing is wanting. For alone God